Hey guys, welcome back to my Seattle Mariners series here on Out of the Park Baseball. As you can see, things are a little bit different. It is April 4th, 2021, so opening day was yesterday. We actually beat the Houston Astros 2-1. I wanted to try a slightly different episode structure, so let me know down in the comments what you think about this, but I want to just sort of reflect on the offseason because at least then I sort of know what moves I've made, what directions I went in, and I think there'll be a better structure to the video and it'll also be shorter. So with that said, if you remember in the last episode, we were swept by the Boston Red Sox in the American League Championship Series. The Red Sox went on to the World Series and were defeated by the Padres in 6 games. You can see the Padres won their last game 12-2. Our owner was pretty happy with our last season, which is a good sign. It means we won't really be fired. So I will get to the awards in just a second, but I'm sure what you are all wondering was what were the major moves that I made during this offseason. And I think going into the offseason, I wasn't really sure that there would be any major moves, but kind of looking at our team and the specific holes that we had, I kind of realized that we weren't really going to solve it through free agent signings. And we're going to have to make probably some big trades. I think especially that was true for starting pitching when people like James Paxton were gone and we were losing Felix Hernandez essentially because his ratings had depleted so much. So with that in mind, we made a major blockbuster deal with the St. Louis Cardinals for Carlos Martinez. Now you can see Martinez, 29 years old. He is a 5-star pitcher, extreme ground ball pitcher, some really good ratings. He has been remarkably consistent in the past several seasons, dating back really to 2015. He has had an ERA under 4 and he has pitched a full season. So that's the kind of guy I really wanted to go after. He has 3 years left of team control. That salary, not too low, but certainly it's below market value, which is always a good sign. And he's fine in terms of his personality as well. Now, in terms of that trade, obviously, there were other people involved in the deal as well. We got a catcher, Carson Kelly, who is good defensively, pretty good with the bat. If you remember, one of our big holes, I think, going to the offseason was what to do at catcher. After Mike Zunino, we traded him to the Red Sox for Christian Vasquez just to save some money. Vasquez was fine, but certainly you want someone else that has a little bit better bat, maybe. I think Carson Kelly fits that mold. He's only got 2 years of Major League service, so he's very cheap this year, and then he'll have 3 more years of team control after that. Now, the last guy we got in this deal was Tommy Edman. He was sort of a throw-in. The Cardinals just didn't want him. He's a decent defensive second baseman, fine in terms of base running, but I really like his offensive rating, especially this avoid K, discipline, and contact ratings. So hopefully he can be a big spot in the top of the order, and you can see in his terms of his service time, he only has 47 days of service time, so he will be cheap for quite a while. Now, in terms of who we gave up, there were 2 kind of big names, one especially. Sergio Olaya was not that big name. He is a 3.5-star potential relief pitcher. At one point, he was actually a 5-star potential starting pitcher. He was a scouting discovery, believe it or not. But you can see he's fragile, low work ethic, and really only has 2+ pitches, so I don't think he will ever be a starter. And then the big guy that we gave up, obviously, is Nick Allen. So if you remember, we had drafted Allen way back in 2017. He is amazing defensively, a great base runner, pretty good offensively. I think this guy could be a consistent 4-win player for the St. Louis Cardinals. But when I just take a look at Carlos Martinez and Carson Kelly and Tommy Edman, sort of 3 holes that we had was starting pitching, a catcher, and a second baseman, something I really couldn't give up doing. And I think, for these major trades, you do have to sometimes give up a lot to get a lot. So I really like that trade with the Cardinals overall. But the second trade that we made, I am not really so sure about. Certainly, I felt like we needed a center fielder, and when I looked at the free agent pool, I just didn't really see anyone who really jumped out at me, so I figured I'd have to make a trade. And in terms of the trades that were available, it was really just sort of mediocre center fielders for ridiculous, prices. I'd have to give up, top-tier prospects. And so with that in mind, I just figured, well, who's the one center fielder? If I could pick one center fielder, who would I get? And I think that guy is Austin Meadows. So you can see during his last 3 seasons, he has averaged about 6 wins above replacement level. So that is a very, very good sign, really kind of a superstar there. But we had to give up a lot in this trade. We also got Juan Baca, who is now decreased to a 3-star potential starting pitcher. At the time, our scout thought that he was a 4 or 4.5 star potential starting pitcher, which definitely made this trade a lot easier to make. So I'm a little disappointed about this, but hopefully he does end up developing. Some other guys that we got in the trade were just sort of one-star potential guys, just people that could fill up roster spots. One intriguing guy, though, was Danny Beard. You can see he's got very high contact, very high avoid K ratings. He is a catcher. Unfortunately, if you look at his ratings, he can't really play anywhere else. But if his catcher ratings can just improve even a little bit, I mean, those offensive ratings are so intriguing. So we'll at least just have to keep an eye on him. Now, in terms of who we gave up a number of people. Cho Young-sung was our first person who we gave up. He was a dominating closer last season, but at 30 years old, his ratings have been going down, and I'm a little concerned about significant regression. Maybe not this year, but potentially next year. He was also making $8 million, which I don't really like paying that much to relief pitchers. Maybe that's just me, but certainly would have kept him if we could, but he was sort of needed to make the trade go through. Another guy that we gave up was Tristan Casas. He was a first-round pick, actually, for us, and he was a pitcher at the time. But taking a look at his statistics right now and also his ratings, he was actually rated and more valued by other teams as a batter. So with that in mind, I just didn't really think we had a place for him. I know they have him playing at first base, but he actually plays best at third base. And because we have so many first basemen and third basemen, I just didn't really think that we had a spot on this team. But he certainly carried a lot of trade value, so I wasn't, too upset about giving him up in particular. But then three other guys that we gave up, Miguel Geraldo, I think he was really the centerpiece of this trade. His offensive potential numbers have definitely gone down over the years. I think at one point he had 70 home run potential. This was back when we picked him up in 2017 on the international amateur market. But, he's still a very, very solid player. Like Nick Allen, I could see him having a couple solid 3 to 4 win seasons. But as I'll show you in a second, I just think that we have so much shortstop depth. I wasn't as, worried about giving someone like him up. We also give up Ben Gamel and Tony Kemp in that trade. These are two guys who are definitely valuable, but I saw that their ratings were starting to regress a little bit. They're starting to get older in terms of their age. They're starting to hit arbitration, so I think their peak value might kind of be up for those two guys. But certainly there was a lot that we gave up in this trade, and you could definitely make the argument that it wasn't worth it. But it's really hard to find premier center fielders in this game, and we certainly found one in Austin Meadows, which just makes our lineup so deep. As you can see right here, really we might have Richard Urena in this leadoff spot instead of Marcus Brito, but we'll get to that in just a moment. So in addition, we also made a third trade with the Los Angeles Dodgers to get Kelvin Herrera. Now, in this deal, we are picking up some of Herrera's salary, not all of it. I think we're paying him about what we would have paid Cho Young-sung instead of this $14.9 million. He's been pretty dominant in the last couple seasons, and we definitely needed a bullpen arm after Sung's departure. Another guy that we got in the trade was Keibert Ruiz. I think I'm just going to send him back to the Dodgers because you'll soon see we totally ripped the Dodgers off on this one. But to be fair, they were trying to DFA a lot of their relief pitchers that were paid a lot of money, so I think they're just trying to shed salary or something. But anyway, they were willing to give up their relievers for almost nothing, so that's kind of how I am justifying this. But we also got Luke Raley in the trade. He's going to be our starting right fielder, at least to begin the year. But as you can see, Calvin Mitchell sort of waiting in the wings here. He is really looking very solid. So I would not be surprised if he comes up maybe even later this month. We'll have to see how he does in AAA. So that was who we got. In terms of who we gave up, the answer is really not too much. Victor Vargas, who's a half a star pitching prospect. Anthony Jimenez, who we've sort of been sitting on for a while. And Jordan Cohen, who's got this great discipline, but sort of mediocre at best everywhere else. So I do think that this trade really wasn't that fair in terms of getting Keibert Ruiz. So I'm actually going to send him away back to the Dodgers for maybe $2 or something. All right, so we are going to be trading Keibert Ruiz to the Dodgers for the price of a soda pop. And we're going to do that trade. So I think that now the trade that involved Kelvin Herrera is about fair. So that's how I'm going to leave it. Now we will take a look at our opening day roster in just a second, but I just wanted to show you guys the awards for last year. So as you can see, Cody Bellinger took home the NL MVP. He hit over 50 home runs last season. Corey Seager came in second. He hit 347 with 40 home runs. And Chris Bryant also hit 50 home runs. He finished third. For the American League, it was Aaron Judge who put up basically his 2017 season. Back in 2020, he hit 56 home runs. Correa came in second, had a dominant year, and Benintendi came in third. He hit almost 360. That is crazy. Definitely some surprises for the Cy Young Awards. You can see Colin McHugh had an ERA under 2. He finished the year as the Cy Young Award winner. I doubt he will continue that success next season, at least to that level. Kyle Hendricks finishes second, and Madison Bumgarner finishes third. For the AL Cy Young Award winners, it was Clayton Kershaw who took home the award. Cho Young-sung finished in second place, and Edwin Diaz, who was involved in that Rafael Devers trade that helped us so much, was actually third in Cy Young voting last year. You can see 111 strikeouts in 70 innings. Another thing of note was that Vladimir Guerrero Jr. finished third in Rookie of the Year voting, and Rafael Devers won a Silver Slugger at third base. And then, of course, Ben Gamel took home yet another Gold Glove Award in right field. He won 3 with us before we traded him to the Pirates. So another sort of big move that we made in the offseason was this Rule 5 draft pick we got, Marcus Brito, which again made me feel a little bit better about trading Geraldo and Nick Allen, because this guy also looks like a pretty solid shortstop prospect. Definitely not as good as those other two, but certainly someone who's very young, team controllable. The only issue is that because he was a Rule 5 draft pick, he has to be in the major leagues all season, which is a problem because he and Urena only play shortstop. So that is definitely a little bit unfortunate. You can see Richard Urena has 3 years of Major League service time. So really, going into the year, I'm not really sure who's going to be playing shortstop. Maybe we'll be splitting time a little bit. I assume Richard Urena is going to be playing a little bit more. But we might sort of look to develop Brito at another position because, I don't know, I think he needs to get more playing time than he will this season. But you can see our batting order just overall is stacked. Brito, Devers, Pac, Meadows, Guerrero Jr., Naylor. Naylor is a 6th hitter. Hopefully he turns it around from last year. If you remember, he only hit .224. But then also Tommy Edman, Luke Raley, and Carson Kelly. That is a stacked lineup, and that's even before Calvin Mitchell gets his Major League debut. And then for our pitching staff, we've got Carlos Martinez as our ace. As you'll see, Kershaw's injured, I think, for about a month, but we'll get to that in just a second. So Martinez currently the ace. Zach Brown is our second starter. Obviously pitched really good down the stretch last year, and his potential ratings still look pretty dynamite, so definitely hoping that he can continue that. Jose De Leon is our number 3 starter. He is looking much better, I think, at least in terms of the ratings, than he was a little bit ago. We also have Jimmy Nelson, who is a free agent signing. Only signed him for $2.4 million. He's a 3-star ground ball pitcher, so hopefully he can make a little bit of an impact in the starting rotation. And then Nick Wells, who, if you remember, pitched pretty well in the postseason and also down the stretch, is going to be our number 5 starter. I don't think he has made a start in the major leagues yet, but he certainly has the ratings to be a decent starting pitcher. For the bullpen, we've got Kelvin Herrera as our closer. Dan Jennings was a free agent signing. He is going to be one of our setup men. Hopefully he is up to the task. And then we've got Tyler J., Pedro Baez, Matt Grimes, who is another possible starting pitcher that we signed for $1.3 million. And we also have Barrett Aston and Sandy Alcantara as possible relief options. So as promised, let's take a look at our disabled list. You can see this guy, Nick Zamorelli. He's actually a 4-star left fielder, but I'm not really liking his ratings that much. But anyway, he has a sprained elbow, so not really sure when he'll return. And then obviously the big injury is Clayton Kershaw. He is out for 3 to 4 more weeks. Again, with a strained hamstring, he seems to be having a lot of hamstring issues. So maybe it's a good time to take a look at our prospect pool. So a little bit thinned out after trading Tristan Casas and Miguel Geraldo and Nick Allen, but certainly we still have a lot of good guys waiting in the wings. You can see Padrino. We are certainly never going to trade this guy. He is looking like a stud and really hoping that he develops. The only thing of concern, I guess, is the stamina, which is currently 45. But we've also got Brito, Calvin Mitchell, Tommy Edman, who I don't know that I'd call a prospect. But anyway, you can see that we've got a number of starting pitching prospects as well that, may not be elite, but people like Juan Baca and Mike O'Neill, hopefully will be at least a 3-star prospect. You can also see Joe Rizzo starting to develop a little bit more than maybe we thought he would a year or two ago. So, we've certainly got some guys in our prospect pool, but things are starting to thin out a little bit. I believe that this year we'll be eligible to sign. Actually, we will not be eligible to sign because I forgot this was another major prospect. We signed him last year, so we won't be able to get an international signing, but we do have this guy waiting in the wings. You can see he is also looking like a stud, a 4.5 or 5-star potential pitcher. Really good stuff, movement and control, so that is very exciting to be sure. So that's going to do it for this episode. Again, just wanted to give you sort of a broad overview of what happened. Let me know, if you like this style a little bit. I think probably it wasn't as good as the old style, but just wanted to try it out. And maybe it is better because I think the video will end up being shorter. But anyway, I will see you guys next time. I guess it'll be on Friday.